But that brings us to the next point, the problems.
So I can confidently say now that I can continue to daily drive Linux.
Hello, I'm MysticcMarcel here and welcome to a new video on the channel. It's been a little while again, but today we are discussing why and how I built my new Linux gaming PC. So starting with the idea. The idea was to build a new PC with Windows 11 and Linux Mint in a dual boot. So I would have two separate drives and each one would have one of the OS. And Windows 11, because it is currently April of 2025 and in October 2025, Windows 10 officially goes end of life. So no more big security updates. If there's like a 0-day exploit, well, shit out of luck, buddy. So how did this idea actually start? Well, it was because Windows 11 is getting more and more bloated. Most people don't like Windows 11 that much and would prefer to be able to stay on Windows 10. And also Copilot and all other AI integrations into not only Windows and Microsoft, all other tech giants are just focusing so much on AI right now. And Copilot is actually one of the reasons why I did not want to go to Windows 11 like as my main operating system. But right out of the gate, there were some problems because after doing some research on Linux and overall over the last couple of years hearing more and more about Linux gaming and Linux is coming, the year of the Linux desktop is coming, I was thinking about, how well does Linux actually perform with gaming and the games that I play? Because there are games like if you play the newest Call of Duty title like Black Ops 6 or I think Modern Warfare 2019 and onwards, there's the Ricochet anti-cheat that does not work on Linux because it's a kernel level anti-cheat, like for example on Valorant as well, Vanguard. That's a big topic, and just like these kernel level anti-cheats, or most of them, just don't allow Linux gamers to play the game, even though it would run like on Windows or even better performance-wise. But yeah, it just doesn't work most of the time, or it's not allowed to work underneath Linux. Another point was editing. I at work, and if I do some stuff privately or as a hobby here, I use the Adobe Cloud like Premiere, Photoshop, sometimes play around with stuff in After Effects, but those are all programs like the Adobe suite that don't work underneath Linux. And these programs, this type of program is way too complicated to be put through like an compatibility layer or translation layer, however you want to call it, like Wine or like Valve's Proton for gaming. Like that doesn't really work with these complicated creative programs, so that was a big hurdle. And also peripherals, like I have a Stream Deck Mini over here that I have used in the past for streaming. Besides streaming, I use it for when I'm in Discord, for example, to mute myself or just auto start a program. It's not just for streamers, even though it's called a Stream Deck, or just spamming Vine boom sounds in Discord. And also, like, would my webcam work perfectly fine? There was another question. So yeah, those were some of the problems. Like, not all games would work. My Adobe Cloud, like the Adobe suite, kind of iffy or won't work at all. And stuff like that is why I decided to go with a dual boot, so Windows 11 and Linux Mint. So if something were to happen to like my Linux installation, or if I have a problem, like a program won't work, I can always go into the Windows 11 installation and just do what I need to do in there and not worry so much about compatibility and is that program available under Linux, or can I make it work underneath Linux? If I need something quick or know a way how to do it in Windows, I will just do it in Windows. But let's keep going to the next part, the PC part list. So I'm just gonna read this off and put it on screen for you guys. This PC is rocking a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. I bought this one off a friend, so it's not what it's currently going for in price. I just gave my friend exactly €300. That CPU is getting cooled by a Silentware Titan that I bought for €45. The graphics card is a 16GB PowerColor Radeon RX 9070 XT Reaper that I bought on Mindfactory for €759. So as you can see, it's the newest top AMD thing. That's gonna be a problem maybe later on. The mainboard is an Asus OG Strix B650EF gaming Wi-Fi that I bought for €270. The RAM is 32 gigabytes, split into two 16 gigabyte sticks. Patriot Viper Venom DDR5 6400. And then I got for drives two 2 terabyte Lexa NM790 M.2 SSDs. That should be enough for each operating system to have like files saved and games installed, the Adobe suite installed on Windows and blah blah blah, and still have enough headroom. Like this PC has 4 terabytes of storage technically, so yeah, should be more than fine. All of these parts are being powered by a 850 watt MSI MAG A850GL, which is a 80 plus gold modular PSU, which I got for €114. This was also the first time I got to build with a modular PSU instead of a non-modular, which was very interesting to work with. And the case that you can see this whole time, or slightly see this whole time, is a Silentware Air 100 MIDI tower that I got for €80. This case is amazing for its price. So yeah, with that we have a combined cost of €1,956.26 as of the day I bought this PC. But yeah, so this makes it the most expensive PC I have bought and built so far. Speaking of all the parts, let's get into the building. So the building process was actually very smooth and like the fastest and cleanest build I've ever done so far. And that really comes down to a lot of stuff like the case and the modular PSU. Like the case, I really like the cable management in this case. It has like a box for the PSU, so you don't see all the cables and you can't even see the PSU, which is a new thing for me. My old PC didn't have that. I also didn't have any HDD drives. Obviously, I got two M.2 SSDs because it's 2025, obviously. My old PC still had two HDDs, so that was saving a bit of space directly next to the PSU. And this case also has the front panel cable, which normally in most cases, and both of my old cases, are like these 2-pin, 1-pin cables, very finicky, very, it just rip your hairs out to install these normally. But this case, for €80, with a glass panel and nice cable management holes, etc., etc., a single connector. It was just, okay, which way? Click, done. Front panel connected. Like, wow. So yeah, I can very much recommend this case. Also, the fan in the back and free in front were all pre-installed and pre-daisy chained. I don't know if I took pictures or videos of that because I didn't film everything from the PC building section. But man, this case for €80 is amazing. Like, if anyone is building a new PC in the future, I can very much recommend this case for €80. Good case, MIDI tower, ATX board fits perfectly. My cooler from Silentware as well just fits perfectly. So yeah, very much a recommendation. So yeah, all in all, installing and cable management actually went pretty well. Like putting the CPU in, the cooler, the RAM, and etc. etc. was very smooth. And also this mainboard has like a quick release for the graphics card, like the PCIe slot if you want to get it in and out, which is also something new to me. But well, this is a €270 mainboard, so I guess you get some cool stuff. Like the I/O shield is pre-installed. You have actually Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. For Wi-Fi, if I want to use it, I have this antenna that I have not unwrapped yet because I am using a LAN cable, obviously. But I do have the option because a few months ago I had the problem that my LAN cable was like kind of just breaking or almost broken. If that ever were to happen again, I could just plug in my Wi-Fi antenna for Wi-Fi 6 actually as well and still be connected to the internet, talk to my girlfriend, my friends, play games. So yeah, and then I first installed Windows 11 obviously. I put the drive into slot 01 directly beneath the CPU, and underneath the graphics card later I installed the Linux drive. But obviously if I still have the drives in and don't want to put them out again, I first install Windows. That makes it just easier because Windows doesn't care if there's another OS on another drive. But that brings us to the next point, the problems. My graphics card released around 4 weeks ago. It's the 9070 XT, like the newest model that came out in March, mid-March. And Linux Mint is a distribution that updates more slowly, isn't on like the newest kernel, so it just releases stable releases as far as I understood it. Well, my graphics card wasn't supported on Linux Mint yet. I needed at least the Linux kernel 6.13, I think. Now I have 6.14. But how did I get 6.14 if the highest Linux Mint would have allowed me to do is 6.11? Well, that's where the solution comes in. I quickly Googled the problem and found out that I could install Fedora. So I went onto Fedora's website, installed Fedora 42 KDE Plasma Edition, like for the desktop environment. And we will get into that in the next chapter for the just showing you around in the Fedora OS and what I have done so far and how I installed things, how I tweaked things. You can just see how easy and almost out of the box this experience has been for me, gaming and talking on Discord with friends. One of the other problems was I knew Mint with its Cinnamon desktop environment, and Fedora obviously switching to the KDE Plasma desktop environment. It would be a switch that I didn't really know much about, and I was just like, yeah, screw it. I'm just gonna put this OS on a USB, boot it, install it, and raw dog it. I was actually pretty lucky because the KDE Plasma desktop environment for Fedora 42 basically just released like 2 or 3 days before I built my PC. I was very lucky because I installed Fedora on a virtual machine before on my old PC with the GNOME environment, like desktop environment. And I'm not really that big of a fan of the GNOME desktop environment, to be honest. I also saw when researching like the Mint problem I had that Fedora also has like an alternative Cinnamon edition, like with the Fedora with the Cinnamon desktop environment. But I just said, screw it. I already had it on a bootable drive when I found out, and I just went with KDE Plasma now. It's not that big of a deal, but for some people, like if you don't like this design, if you want the GNOME design, like that's the funny thing about Linux. You just get so much choice. Depending on what hardware you have, I would just go for Linux Mint. That has been... I love Mint, like on my Dualboot on my old PC, I loved it. And playing around with customizing the desktop and stuff, I also posted something about that on my Blue Sky account if you want to follow me on there. And Fedora right now, I have not had any problems. Like I just need my taskbar at the bottom, the start menu or start button, whatever on the bottom left. And that's it. That's all I need, okay? But yeah, enough like talking to this camera. Let's actually go switch to the webcam and my desktop with OBS recording. So I can show you around what I tweaked, how I installed things, and how well games are running actually.
Okay, now that we are on my desktop, as you can see, Steam is still downloading Farming Simulator 22, so I can test my steering wheel that I own. For now, let's just look at the desktop. I just went with one of the standard wallpapers that Fedora comes with. Let's start with Steam. So Steam works just right out of the gate. I just have to go into Steam, Settings, and if you go down to compatibility, you can just enable Steam Play for all other titles. And with that, you can just run Proton Experimental, that's what I do. And then you can play Windows games underneath Linux, like with a translation layer. That's what the Steam Deck actually uses. Steam, I just installed it via the Discover, which is basically the software manager, like the app store for this. And I just went ahead, typed in Steam, let it load for a bit, and installed the Steam Flatpak here, 700 ratings, proprietary, yeah, and clicked on install, and then it was done. I could log into Steam, install all of my games, and these are some of the games I have installed right now. Most of these work right out of the box. And if you want to know if your favorite game works underneath Linux, I can strongly recommend going to protondb.com, I'm sorry. And if you search, for example, for Deep Rock Galactic or Deep Rock Galac, it has a platinum rating, so runs perfectly out of the box, and I can confirm that it does because I installed it and I started it up and it just works on highest settings with my PC and almost like 150, 200 frames I think it was in this game actually, like triple digit frames and ultra settings. So this thing is a beast. I love it. But let's continue. I also installed Like a Dragon, the Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii demo, and it also runs just smooth. Highest settings, 150 to 180, depending on where you are and how much is going on screen. But you could just throw on a little bit of upscaling and frame generation with AMD in this case, and it didn't look that bad and got me up to 220 frames, so that was okay. I'm not the biggest fan of these fake frames and frame generation stuff, but a little bit of resolution upscaling is okay in my opinion. And frame gen if you're already running at a native good FPS. So, because the technology, the best I would describe it and heard it being described is, it's a technology that works best when you basically need it the least. So, yeah. Most of these games, like I said, worked perfectly fine. Doom Eternal, for example, this had to work for me underneath Linux, otherwise I would not have swapped. I have 4 and 8 hours in Doom Eternal, and I cannot wait for Doom the Dark Ages. I might actually do some content on that. But if you go back to ProtonDB, if we type in Doom Eternal, you can see that it has only a gold rating, so runs perfectly after tweaks. Doom Eternal actually just worked out of the box. Like, I had no issue running this game. It went on ultra nightmare settings, no resolution scaling, ray tracing turned on like 180 frames constantly. It just works. I didn't tweak anything. It just runs on compatibility, nothing forced on it, so it just uses the default which I showed you in this compatibility layer. Proton Experimental, nothing else tweaked, it just runs perfectly fine. The only game so far that I had to tweak out of all these games, Black Ops 3 and Farming Sim are still installing, so I can't speak for those games. The only game though out of the rest that has not worked immediately was Cyberpunk. And if you love playing Cyberpunk, this is what I did. So with Proton Experimental, it crashed and yeah, terminate the process and look up what other people did on ProtonDB. So I just went to this filter, it also gold rating. So I was like, okay, maybe I have to do some tweaks. It's not platinum rated. Went to Fedora and just looked at what other people did. And most people, from what I can see, are using Proton 9.0-4. And I think it was actually just this one that worked for me. So I went into this command line, copy pasted it, which is also a nice feature on Fedora, that you can have this little clipboard and have a full history of what you copy pasted, which you can also delete. But yes, with this I went into Steam, right click on Cyberpunk, properties, and then I put in these launch options. So it skips the intro, skips the start screen, and skips the launcher. Skipping the launcher, I think, is probably the biggest problem that this game had, because I didn't even know that there was a separate launcher for like Witcher and Cyberpunk. And I went to compatibility and forced use of a specific Steam Play compatibility tool and went Proton 9.0-4, like most of the people on ProtonDB from what I can see here. And it worked perfectly and ran with 45 frames, 45 on highest settings, I think highest, and ray tracing ultra, and no resolution scaling. I turned that off. No frame and resolution scaling, just native. My 1080p monitor, 144 Hz monitor as well. It ran with 50 frames. So if I slightly turn down the settings, and maybe if I want to throw on upscaling or fake frames, frame generation from AMD, I could easily play this game with triple digit FPS. So would be really cool. I just basically installed this because it's like one of the games to benchmark test. So yeah, I did that, which makes me so happy that this worked almost out of the box, everything. Okay, so as a little update, Like, I'm gonna throw this in like the middle of the video. It's been 3 weeks since I built my PC. And it wasn't all that smooth, to be honest. In the original video, like right after I built my PC and installed everything, tested a bit, I hadn't really daily driven the machine yet, and there were some problems after some updates. My displays on Linux would freeze randomly. It was pretty much random, but with a Twitch stream opened and a game opened, like using 2 monitors, I could almost kind of replicate it, but yeah, my displays would freeze. I would still have sound. The numlock on my keyboard would still work, so I knew that the like system was still responsive and not fully dead. But my screens would go both black, and then one would switch to green, one would switch to black. Like the second monitor would always be green, the main one would always go dark black. Thus, I can't be constantly thinking about, oh no, I hope this doesn't crash the system. Like, I can't daily drive this. Then I went into Windows because I was like, okay, so maybe it's a driver problem on Linux. Maybe it's a hardware issue, which would be very bad. Or maybe I did something wrong with the Fedora installation and installing the codecs afterwards from RPM Fusion and stuff. So I went to Windows every now and then after work and did benchmark tests. I did ray tracing tests in 3D Mark. I did times by extreme, like as a stress test and a different stress test as well. Just let that play through for like half an hour. So the graphics card was under full load. So yeah, that way I was like, okay, this is probably not a hardware issue. It probably is either me installing Fedora wrong, doing something wrong, or the drivers on Linux are just not there, because this graphics card is, as of recording now, not even 2 months old. It released in like the middle of March, and I built my PC in the middle of April, and it is now almost the middle of May, so take that as you will. Just my tip as like throwing this into the middle of the video here. Maybe don't use bleeding edge hardware, like just released hardware on the Linux. For me, it made sense, like money-wise, and just the opportunity was there to buy the newest AMD card, like the 9070 XT. Like, whoa, I can actually buy that with the money I saved up over the last year. So I was like, maybe I have to reinstall Fedora. So I put all my Steam games on an extra drive, like as a backup, so I don't have to re-download all of them. So I can just copy-paste them again and let Steam verify the files. So I reinstalled Fedora. Did all the steps like following a YouTube tutorial again and installing the RPM Fusion stuff, etc. So it was basically a fully clean install again, and it still crashed on me. So yeah, I was like, maybe I have to daily drive Windows for like a few weeks, a few months. And then a few days later, I installed the newest Fedora update, which included the kernel 6.14.5. And ever since that kernel release, it seems to have fixed most of my issue, or basically the display freezing thing was the only issue I had so far, and it was very annoying, to say the least. But it seems fixed. The only thing I had was a crash. Like when I crashed on Windows, one time the driver, it just went black, came back, and Radeon software gave me like a pop-up saying, oh, your driver's crashed, but you could still use your system, lol. So I was like, okay, the driver's maybe not fully there, especially when it happened once on Windows. It might be a bigger problem on Linux. But ever since kernel 6.14.5, like I said, it seems to be fixed. I only had one crash where I was playing Doom Eternal and talking to my girlfriend in Discord with camera on, and it crashed, went black for like 3 seconds, came back, and then just told me, yeah, Discord, Steam, and Doom Eternal, yeah, those 3 programs crash, but you can still use your system. And that was the key thing with the newest kernel on Linux. As of right now, like I can go here, we can go into the fast fetch terminal. It's 6.14.5, as you can see. So that was the only crash I had basically for like a few days now, like 3-4 days. So I can confidently say now that I can continue to daily drive Linux Fedora 42 KDE Plasma Edition. if you want to know the exact one. Like I mentioned, the other recording only go into Windows for Adobe and Rust, for example, like anti-cheat games that don't really work with Linux right now. I don't know where I'm gonna put this in the video yet, but I just want to throw this in there because the other recording was like a few days, 2 or 3 days after I built the PC and tested a bit and had no issues. So it was a bit more optimistic. See what I did there? And a bit more positive, but I want to throw this in there because it hasn't all been like smooth sailing. But I feel like that's still because I went with a graphics card that just released. I feel like on my old system that would have worked perfectly. And I would not have had this type of issue. I feel like this is just the drivers have to like a fine wine. They just get better with age, you know? And I feel like that's the problem I basically chose myself. I like drove myself into a corner with choosing such new hardware. So yeah, don't take this as like my hardware would never work underneath Linux. There would be such a headache and blah, blah, blah. Just know that there can be problems. Like if I didn't have this graphics card, I would have gone with Linux Mint. If you want to go with Fedora as well, which is a rolling release, like with the newest kernel updates for new hardware, then go for it. If you use a 9070 XT like me, it should be fine now. I just want to throw this in here. So let's continue with the video, like the positivity. Because, for example, for video files, I have OBS and I just recorded something here. Oh no, this is the file that is currently being made. I'm an idiot. I recorded this, for example. Just a bit of Overwatch. And you can see Overwatch, we'll get to that. But first I want to talk about this used to not show a video. This was just a black screen, like the border here. And just played audio, which is not ideal. But to fix that, I don't know if you can find like the codecs and containers for MP4 and FLV and stuff to play back stuff, like the codecs in this Discover thing. Maybe, probably, but this was the one and only time so far I used the scary terminal for doing something. Because I did take screenshots of that. I also did some funny pictures with the with the camera app from Fedora, which is kind of funny. But yes, I went ahead and did some screenshots. That's what Cyberpunk looked like, by the way. And I went to this site, rpmfusion.org, because I found this on a Reddit post that is right here. I found this on like a r/Fedora Reddit post. Was linked by one of these nice people. And I basically just went ahead and switched to full FFmpeg with this command, the sudo dnf swap, which is also like getting a bit explained here, and install additional codecs. I did that as well. So I basically just copy pasted these two commands into the terminal as sudo, like administrator privilege, put in my password, and it worked perfectly fine. After that, I could go ahead and open, for example, this file and just record some gameplay of Overwatch. I know some people in the comments will be saying right now, streaming, don't just use any terminal commands that you find online if you don't exactly know what they're doing, especially on sudo commands like administrator privilege, like deep privilege on your PC. I know. Like I said, if there's experts in the comments, maybe, of this video, if this video gets seen by anyone except like 3 people, if there's a way for like to find these codecs in the Discover, like the software manager, because I know on Windows, I think I have to do that as well to play back like raw footage and stuff. You have to also install these some codecs that you can just find in the Microsoft Store. We hate the Microsoft Store. I know it sucks, but you can find them on there. So it would be very nice to know if this was a way to do it on Linux as well, instead of using the terminal for that. Because, like I said, besides that, I never had to use, so far, the scary terminal that most people would be like, nah, that's too like technical. I don't want to deal with this stuff. I would much rather have a software manager like this, like a GUI to click things, click funny buttons and click install. Whoa. But yes, I just showed you some Overwatch gameplay, but how did I get Overwatch to play if all I have is Steam? Where's Battlenet, Marcel? For that, there is stuff like Lutris, and as you can see, you can log in with your GOG, Epic Games, EA app, Ubisoft Connect, and if you want to also Steam account. But that doesn't explain how I played Overwatch, because Overwatch is a Battlenet Blizzard account thing. So how did I do that? Yes, you need to install a program called Bottles for that. Makes the programs believe they're running on Windows, but it's getting translated like a compatibility layer to Linux, so you can run it. And I just installed or created a new bottle for gaming, optimized for games, named it Battlenet, and then clicked on a button to say, yo, Battlenet, because there's like a little list of programs that are verified by the devs from Bottles. I can just click on this, click on play, or execute, or run executable, whatever. And then it should, in theory, just open Battlenet, because Battlenet now thinks it's running underneath Windows. And I can close this. And here we have Battlenet. And then I installed Overwatch. I clicked on play. And it just worked. Like gaming on Linux is kind of easy nowadays. If all you want is like Overwatch or Crash Bandicoot maybe, like on Battlenet, Steam games, if you only want to play some of that and talk with people on Discord, this is like perfect. I have not been in my Windows installation for like the past 3 days now, because everything just kind of works, except that one time I couldn't play back videos, but that was a 2 command line fix. Let's go back to one point I had with Fortnite, for example, or playing games with anti-cheats. For example, if you go onto ProtonDB again, and for example, you want to play the newest Call of Duty. Black Ops 6, where's Black Ops 6? Like Cold War, Modern Warfare 2019, Vanguard, Black Ops 6 should be somewhere here as well. Yep, you can see they're all borked. Now, what does borked mean? That's what I meant with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 and upwards. These games have the anti-cheat Ricochet. And Ricochet is like kernel level and doesn't allow Linux and doesn't work on Linux, so you cannot play these games on Linux. Even though they might work underneath Linux, or even better than their Windows counterpart. For example, another game is Rainbow Six Siege. If you're playing this, sorry, it's borked. It doesn't work. It doesn't work underneath Linux. You can play this without the BattleEye anti-cheat enabled offline, and it works perfectly fine. Performs very smooth. But if you want to play the game actually, like it's a multiplayer live service game, obviously you want to play it online on servers, you can't, because the anti-cheat doesn't work on Linux. So if one of these games, or for example League of Legends, has the same problem now, because they later on added the Vanguard anti-cheat that Valorant also uses into League of Legends. If you're like a League of Legends gamer, you've been playing on Linux League of Legends for years, suddenly it didn't work because they put in an anti-cheat and didn't allow Linux gamers to play. So yeah, if you play some of those games, I think Apex Legends also doesn't work, but I don't know right now. Apex Legends. It has gold rating. Okay, so it might work. Fuck EA forever. Okay, removal of Linux support from the anti-cheat. Okay, so maybe the game runs, but it doesn't run with the anti-cheat again. Okay, I think Rust also has the same problem. It's bronze, so might need some tweaks, might have some problems or crashes. But like this one reviewer says, the game is perfectly on experimental. You can only play non-easy anti-cheat servers though. So once again, an anti-cheat problem, not a problem of the game can physically not run on Linux. So yeah, that's one of the big problems that most people probably have, because these are like mainstream games like League of Legends, Valorant, the newest Call of Duty, and so on. Well, if you play some of those games, I don't blame you for not trying or thinking about trying Linux for yourself. Because if you daily these games, for example, Overwatch was important for me, that it works underneath Linux for me, because I play this game with my girlfriend a lot. It's like one of our, if not the go-to game for us. We play each season, we play since launch of Overwatch 2, and before that in Overwatch 1, like the last couple of months that game was online. So yeah, this was very important for me to work, and it just works. And also, as you can see, I'm using my webcam right now, so Peripherals. My webcam is just working out of the box perfectly fine. It's a Logitech. I can put it on screen if I find it. I think they still sell this one, maybe not the exact one, but they sell this one still, or a version of it. Just work perfectly out of the box with Discord and OBS, and yeah, just overall good. But yeah, let's swap back to the main camera.
So yeah, still talking about peripherals. I mentioned I have this Stream Deck Mini over here. I have not yet tried to install a community-made software solution for the Stream Deck. I looked this up like a few months ago when just researching some Linux stuff, and someone in the community made like a Linux alternative to use the buttons on the Stream Deck. I've not tried that yet. I want to in the future. But as of now, the only way I could install the official Elgato software for this device would be underneath Windows. But yeah, just in general, in conclusion, so just for gaming and Discord calls, it just works perfectly fine. This is like, I'm just very happy that this worked. Like the dual boot, my dream of just ditching Windows ever so slightly, just worked out almost perfectly fine. The only thing is content creation is gonna be a bit of a maybe it works, maybe it won't work, or with a few tweaks. But because, like I mentioned in the beginning, I daily drive the Adobe Creative Cloud at work, like 40 hours a week, I am not gonna switch to a Linux version of DaVinci Resolve or Kdenlive for now. I might test it in the future, but for now I'm just gonna do the lazy way and for me most comfortable way and edit and create on Windows. Yeah, other than that, overall, the OS both work very well. The PC is performing in benchmark tests, in gaming. Overall, very nice, very good. But, for example, stuff like the Elgato software, Adobe support for Linux, I don't see the big companies doing stuff for Linux unless market share skyrockets, or at least gets closer to like Apple macOS levels of like 15-20% market share. Right now I think Linux is at overall 4 or 5% maybe. So yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. It's not the year of the Linux desktop anytime soon. My old PC, to finish this video off, is just going to be used, for example, when friends or my girlfriend come over for the weekend and we want to game side by side, or for example do some Overwatch dailies or just play a local game. And other than that, I'm just going to use it probably for tinkering around with different things in Windows or Linux, because I might put Linux on this one because I don't really want to put Windows 11 on my old machine. And it doesn't even have a TPM 2.0 module, so it wouldn't even work right now unless I, for example, use like Rufus to like get around those hardware requirements. But that's a whole other headache and a whole other video topic for itself. This is my backup PC, second PC now, and this is my main PC. I also named all of my PCs. The old one is the old reliable. The very first one is just the first, and this one is called the Doom machine, because this is mainly being built for Linux and playing Doom the Dark Ages. So yeah, all in all, I just hope you enjoyed the video, found it interesting, could maybe learn something from the way I did things. If you have any questions about some of the things I did to get this working, just drop a comment. I will try always to answer as quick as I can, every single comment, because this is such a small channel still. I can still see all the comments and read all the comments, reply to all the comments. Like and subscribe for maybe new Linux and gaming content. Just the channel is all over the place, and that's kind of how I like it. That's kind of like I am. All over the place, every new week a new hyperfixation on something else. So yeah, see ya.